Hey guys, how you doing today? This is John Klein with the $100 Million Podcast. Our $100 Million guest today is Todd Bishop. Todd is an entrepreneur. He's got a really cool brand. He's going to tell us about his story, how he's grew to make tons of money with this, and hopefully we're going to learn a little bit of business nuggets from him, hear his inspiring story and whatnot. But Todd, how are you doing today?
Doing great, thanks. Jay's
Awesome.
made it to the World Series, so life is good.
Life is good. I like that. I like that. So I like to kind of start off from the younger years. Where were you in high school? What were you doing? What kind of were your first jobs, and how did that grow you into the man you are today?
Yeah, so as a kid growing up, uh, I had some entrepreneurial parents. From the age of 10 through the age of 16, I was working in our family bed and breakfast, which was, basically the Airbnb of nowadays, except back then it was an actual bed and breakfast where mom was, she was cooking breakfast in the mornings, cinnamon rolls and pancakes, and I was doing all the rooms and the cleaning, so vacuuming and toilets. I just hated it. I hated the bathroom stuff, but pay was good, and I got to sail in the afternoons, and it allowed me to play all the sports I wanted to because I got all the work done pretty early in the day. So, and then as I got into, I was, had a newspaper route. That was, probably my first job, and that started when I was about 13 years old. And that was in a rural community, so I was on a BMX backpack. I only had like 20 customers, and it took me an hour to get there, as opposed to, you could do an apartment building in the city. You could do 20 customers in 3 minutes in a hallway, and I was always envious of the city slickers. But eventually we moved into the city, and I played a lot of fast pitch softball. And in the area that we grew up, baseball wasn't big, but I've been a baseball fan all my life, and played a lot of other sports. So surfing, grew up sailing. So the ocean here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, a big part of our upbringing, and it's a huge influence on everything we do, and it's reflective in the business now. And yeah, I went to a local university here, Dalhousie University, and my dream was to play basketball, because I played high school basketball in it was basically the best city team, which had won provincial championships. And but as soon as I graduated, I moved to New Zealand when I was 18 years old, and that was to continue playing soft pitch, or softball. And as they have a huge fast pitch culture down in New Zealand. And so I was kind of living the endless summer for a couple of years there, and that was pretty awesome. Then came back to Dalhousie, went there, got an English degree, and then I handed that to mom and dad because that was important to them. And then I moved straight to Banff, Alberta, and I taught skiing for 6 years. Basically, the degree was almost to appease my parents, but in the end, it did help me a lot with because I have an English degree. It helped with the business of creating marketing assets and storytelling and all the legal documents. There was LegalZoom was basically me trying to figure out how to do it on the fly of getting, say, a trademark across the line. It was, getting our logos protected, all the little things that probably other organizations would pay people to do. Jeff and I had to figure out on our own how to do it. And so we just bootstrapped this business from day one. And yeah, we've gotten much further ahead now. We're dealing with real IP lawyers, and yeah, there's a big gap in between us registering our trademark, back when we started, to where we are now. And I guess that's why we're here to discuss what happened in the middle there.
How did that mindset work for you going into life? Were you like, okay, I'm going to go get a job, or were you like, I'm going to go start something by myself?
Yeah, it was instilled very early. I was a shortstop, and my second baseman, a guy named Scott Hirschman, we decided at the age of 19, when I was back playing ball back in Halifax, to start up a boat cleaning business. It's called Bow Rider Boat Cleaning. And he had the same dream as I did, which was, work for yourself, don't work for somebody else. And it was, what do we like? Well, we wanted to be outdoors. We love boating, and we thought if we cleaned boats in Halifax in the summertime, then we could, in the winter, move to Florida and open up a business down there and clean boats, and so just always live in the warmer temperatures, because the winter was kind of harsh. And so basically what I learned as a kid was you've got to work for yourself. If you're working for somebody else, then you're just working hard to make somebody else money. And my parents instilled that in myself and my brothers at a very early age. So it was kind of osmosis, I guess. It was inevitable.
What are your brothers up to now?
So we're all in the business together. So Jeff is the CEO. He's my middle brother, and there's 10 years between Jeff and I. And then Alex is working on photography and videography with the marketing team, and he's 13 years younger. And Jeff now lives in Los Angeles because we opened up a LA facility, and then Alex and I still live in Nova Scotia here. So we're both based out of basically our headquarters of the original Dormie Workshop.
Awesome. Are you the oldest?
Yes.
Okay, so there's 10 years underneath between you and your younger brother, and then so your youngest brother is 23-year difference.
No, 13. So it's 10 and 13.
Okay, between you and him.
Between
Okay.
Jeff, Alex, and I.
Okay.
So yeah,
Very cool.
A lot of the activities. When I was, say, 20, Jeff was 10, Alex was 7. When I moved to Banff, Alberta, to do skiing at 25, well, I had them move. They came out for a 10-day vacation when I was 26. So Jeff was 16 and Alex was 13. So they flew across the country alone, and picked them up at the airport, and they came up. And I'm sure at that age it would be very impactful of like, man, the ski industry seems pretty fun. Big brother seems to be having a good time out there. I think this would be something that they would aspire to be. And Alex ended up moving out to Banff. He worked at the same resort as I did. Jeff moved out to Whistler. He lived in Whistler for a number of years. So the ski culture was huge in our family, and we still ski. And we've done collabs with Gilson, the snowboard and ski company. And it's still something that it's a generational sport. So my youngest son, or my only son, he's 8 now. He's skied since he was 3. So it's just something that with our family, it's like everybody's in it together. And whether it's golf, skiing, surfing, everybody kind of just goes around and does the same thing. And that's how we've turned the business into successes. We kind of all share the same vision and the same passion, so it's been a pretty easy transition from taking those kind of early life passions and turning it into a component in our family business, and showcasing how golf can be inclusive to outdoor influences like the style of surf or a ski golf lifestyle. What are the products that can cross over between those two? And that's kind of how we explore and prototype, and how we envision the brand to continue to expand, is utilizing things that we actually need on the daily, are things that we believe we can make in a much cooler, functional, and with better quality products and craftsmanship. So using the best materials and the best craftsmanship is how we founded the business, and we continue to do that today.
I love that. It's so interesting that you and all your brothers are in business together. A lot of families would not want to do business together. What kind of things were instilled in you guys growing up? Because obviously, who has your back more than your brother, per se, right? If you have a good family relationship, you guys, thick and thin, family's always going to stay together. You're always going to be family. And do you feel like that's a good business partnership, or do you think it's maybe not good to do business with family?
I mean, there's definitely challenges inherently with that, and it's a fine line between you don't want to burn bridges with your family, because at the same time, if you burn a bridge with somebody that you thought was a close friend or an associate, you're not going to see them at Christmas and Easter So there's a lot more riding on a family business, and so being aware of that, we've had multiple sessions and meetings of having to say, hey, we're finding this to be a challenge. We need to address it now before it becomes, a cancer and just spreads. So it's something that is always ongoing, and I'm sure anybody else that's watching that is in the family business understands what I'm talking about. So you place such a huge value on the trust component. So you wouldn't want to be in business with anybody else because you know that blood is thick in the water. But at the same time, if something goes totally off the rails, your family and balance in business versus family becomes one of the biggest challenges. And it's an ongoing thing that will probably never end until we exit the business.
Having the family business, communicating with your brothers and stuff like that to make sure everybody's on the same page and to not burn bridges right within the family. For people that I would have loved to have a brother. I only had a sister, right? And she's not in business at all. So for people that do have siblings, kind of like the Tate brothers, I think they said something one time like, "Why would I not want to go in business with my brother? Like, who has your back more?" But then also some of the other families that I've talked to, the brothers would never go into business together. What kind of benefits do you see from it, and what kind of cons, and how should somebody kind of decide whether or not they should do a business with their family?
I mean, the benefits, I would say, it's no different than in golf. Like my brother and I, he was a professional golfer as well, and when we played in two-man events, we were so similar in terms of yardages and uh, tactics of whether you're going to hit driver, who's going to hit a fairway wood to lay up, and who's going to go driver. Reading putts, we knew what the speeds were like. Uh, Understanding when to be aggressive, when to, just two putts going to suffice because it's a 60 footer. Um, all those little things, you can transpose that onto business. So in those types of decisions, you want to have somebody that is going to challenge you on certain items. They're not going to just be a yes person the whole time. But invariably, you have to be on the same page when it comes to working away around a golf course. Otherwise, you're going to shoot a higher score than what you probably should. And that's what happens in business. So it was a real easy fit for Jeff and I to go into business together because we had done it previously. So we had started in, it was 2011-ish, maybe 2010, golf ball marker business. And I actually have one here at the desk that it started out as a poker chip, and then it progressed into this really super high-end glass, fused glass. It had a magnet on the bottom, so you could put a smaller marker there for, because these were a thicker style ball marker that nobody had really seen before. And so from that, it was a really good experiment of learning how to prototype, create, market, establish channels of sales, and understand influencers. And so from that little exercise, it went great. We also had a golf school that we had started, and it was called, I'd started it originally because I moved home from the US first. And so when Jeff came back to Nova Scotia, it was a Bishop Brothers Golf School. So we were teaching, and I was working on a cruise ship as a golf pro, and he came out as an assistant for a while. So we just had always done things together in the golf business as a two-person unit. Because I was older, I usually initiated, and then Jeff would come on. And again, it was, like I said, the analogy of being on the golf course is the way it worked because he thought differently than I do. He's much more like level-headed, where I can get hot and he can kind of like calm me down, but I can also be super positive, and he would, it's like, hey man, like try to stay in the box here, where he's much more level-headed and cool on the golf course. Like I don't think he's ever broken a club in his life, where there's ponds, lakes, and trees that have different assortment of clubs from me over the years. Not that I'm proud of that, but like I grew up being a baseball player, and being an impact player, so it was kind of rah, high fives, diving into home plate, collisions, whatever. That was the way I was bred, and it was really hard for me to unpack that from my golfing persona, and that's been an ongoing thing for me over the years. As I get older, I'm kind of like chilling out, which is great, and I'm starting to shoot better numbers at certain times. So back to the business component, the yin and the yang, good cop, bad cop, we could play that, and so those types of strategies, it's great to have somebody that that intimately in terms of mentally what their vision is, how they're going to handle a certain situation if we get challenged at a trade show. All these types of things have benefited us as a team, and that's been a big component of our success because when you look at family business versus a non-family member business, you haven't grown up with that person, and you might not know exactly how they're going to react in a certain situation. Are they going to pull their own weight? And if they don't, how are you going to bring that up in a way that they're not going to get all offended? These are all the things that happen in business that are, the human factor, the human element is one of the biggest challenges because, this product isn't going to change. That's a piece of glass. Who's going to fix it if something goes wrong? It's going to land on our heads because it's our business. And then, did somebody not use the right glue? Was it rushed? Have we done something wrong? And trying to go through the steps back to fixing the problem. And when it does land on somebody's head, how do you address that? So it all comes back to the family business, in my opinion, is the best way to do it because they are the ones you know the most intimately, and they are okay sharing the burden and the responsibilities when shit hits the fan. Because it inevitably is going to hit the fan and really hard.
Where did you and your brother learn the business experience from? Because it sounds like you guys were, golf pros, you guys been around the golf industry. Were you guys ever at a point where you were mentored or got taught on how to actually manufacture and how to actually sell these products? Because I know as a golf pro, you sell products as a salesman, right? A little bit. But what about the
Yeah, so
manufacturing, the resourcing?
that was the biggest challenge. It was Jeff's idea to get into the leather business, and we had already had the golf glass ball markers. We had already got the golf school up and running, and we had a good network of pros that we had met from playing in the U.S. and caddies. We had a great network there. So it wasn't like we're going to enter, the seafood industry, and we don't know any fishermen. We have no idea how to toss a line over the boat, and then if we brought the fish on board, who do we call? Well, we knew who to call. We had lots of experience, and that was a big advantage for us early on. Was we leaned on a lot of people that we knew. I look back and I always wonder, like people who start business, if they don't have any of those connections, I take my hat off to them because without those people that were the early adopters, we never would have got anywhere. So trying to, your sales pitch have to be so strong to convince complete strangers to believe in you. At least we had a proven record that we were trustworthy golf pros. We played a lot. We had a lot of friends, and people, generally liked us. We're not hard to get along with, and we come from very humble beginnings. So it was a pretty, we can talk with everybody. You can talk with the richest people on the planet because we had to caddy for them sometimes. But at the same time, we're just golf pros trying to make a living. So in terms of the experience component, it was a big gamble because we didn't really know anything about the leather world, but we did understand style and we did understand trends, and that we knew that was our strength. So it was trying to get somebody that could build the product for us of how we envisioned it, and that was our next challenge, was to find those people who could actually build the product, because we didn't know how to sew. we didn't necessarily know a lot about leather, and that was like our first initial challenge, was finding that.
And what, just to give people curiosity for, how successful you guys are, what's the most amount of revenue this business has generated in a year?
Um, I'll put it this way: it's under 10 mil, but it's over five. So
Over five.
it's been a while to get us there. I think the first year in business, we had breached $35,000, and for us back then, with two guys that had full-time jobs, I mean, that'd be my first tip, is to not quit your day job, because we still taught golf full-time in the days, and then at night was when we would do the work on the head cover. And to get that, $30,000 in sales, that was done through a trade show in the Atlantic PGA section here, and again, leaning on people who knew us. But we only had prototypes. We didn't really have a finished product, and it was just a lot of leather hides. And they believed in the vision. They didn't really understand why somebody would want to take a head cover that was free and put money into a leather one. And that was part of our sales pitch, is like, these things feel great, they last forever, and you can customize them. Just on those three principles, people kind of were like, okay, that kind of makes sense. We don't have a premium product like that here, and it was in Atlantic, Canada. I don't know if there may have been maybe a couple of resorts that had leather head covers, and it was a U.S. based brand, and nice quality. The designs weren't really still anything that Jeff or I would buy, and that was where we knew there was an opportunity. And so that was what we seized, and we were able to, our basic principle was, we were going to build you a product that expressed your values, your a group that you may wanted to associate with. Whether, let's say, you're a surfer, you wanted to showcase that you have a really cool set of head covers that were surf inspired, and it's a great conversation piece on the first tee. And I've said this a lot: he who has the best story wins. And that was kind of what we built the head covers around, is being able to come up with this head cover here sitting on my desk. There's going to be somebody out there that likes cars, and they're going to go, man, do you have an RS? I'm like, no, but I'm dreaming on getting one. I got an old beat up 996 though. And then from there, all of a sudden the conversation starts. It's a great icebreaker. So a lot of people, even when it comes to, say, Wingfoot, you got a Wingfoot head cover, and you go and you travel a lot. Well, somebody's going to say, hey, I'm from there. Have you played that? The place is awesome. So these were the things these were some of the sales pitches that we were using to get our original sales to the local market. Was, let's build those stories and showcase your brand. Tell us more about the course. What's the history? Have you got any cool trees, or a bridge, or some type of geographical component that you would like to be showcased on that cover? And that resonated with people. They were like, yeah, I mean, we've been just buying branded Titleist and branded Callaway covers for decades. Like, we don't really even get a deal from them. And it's like, exactly. So why don't you showcase your own brand? And that was kind of like the beginning of the undercurrent of the swell that you saw nowadays. Everybody's bag's got custom head covers, and there's all kinds of different price points. That was another key component. Was at the very beginning, there was a point where we said, what are we going to charge for these things? Like, we looked at the market, and we saw that the premium was still not really tapped, and we thought, we don't want to have a race to the bottom. We're not going to race on price. We're going to race on quality, and we're going to race on craftsmanship and creativity. And with those three things, we felt confident enough that with time, we were going to have the most creative, the best quality, and the most unique designs that anybody's going to find. And Jeff and I both believed in that wholeheartedly, and we have never wavered, and we still, to this day, are trying to come up with cool innovations. And our staff, they're equally as important as each person came on board, they brought a new vision, a new angle of how to do something. So, for example, we have a really cool prototype person, and this is a leather, looks like a book of matches, and it holds golf tees. So it's like, what was the inspiration behind this? Could be, it's definitely from smoking something. Most of the stuff in Canada here is legal, so I'm guessing I know what it is. But these matchbooks, it's just like, I can guarantee you there's nobody else making those things, and they haven't even been brought to market. It's just like, how do we, what's the angle of these unique little things that we have? Yeah, it was always race to the top, elevate, and get people that share that same vision of innovation, um, finding the best ways to embellish and bring out the stories of the customers who we're serving.
I love that, man. What a cool product. And, basically for a quick summary of a rundown is you saw a need in the market, an opportunity for a premium product that nobody else was doing, and you decided to fulfill that niche. And you guys have done really successful with it. And I didn't want to go off. I want to give you an opportunity to do your sales pitch just one time, just total explain exactly what your brand is now, because I know we were originally talking about the manufacturing piece, and I want to go back to that. But I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what you're doing now, your success and stuff like that, and your.
Yeah, so one of the things that we like to say is we don't rest on our laurels. So in terms of product, we know that the head cover, it's similar to, like, if you think of G4, the first thing they ever did really was gloves. And yeah, there's a million different gloves out there, but they were the ones that brought the color into it. You could get any shade of color into those gloves, which that was an innovation. A lot of people didn't want to do color because color can run and it can stain. If you got a long sleeve shirt and it's white and you got a glove and you're sweating and it ruins a white shirt, well, everybody was like, let's just make white gloves. You're not going to worry about it. Well, G4 said, no, we're going to make color gloves. Well, it's no different from us. And that was their main product, and people loved it. And then they diversified into everything and anything. We didn't have the working capital or the investment to be able to just get into anything after head covers. So right now, head covers are our main game, but we've expanded into other leather products that we could control, which would be doing wallets, stash bags, lime stick covers, putters. We've really done a whole bunch of different work on, zero torque putters, different shaped mallets, blades, and using magnets instead of Velcro. Like we just said, we will never use Velcro in our products. That is a non-starter, and if a brand asks us to, we just won't do it. It's just one of the things that we do. It's magnets, and it's silent, it's quality, it's better. These are just principles that the brothers believed we had to make as a rule, because that's just how we saw the brand as being that premium product. In terms of what else are we getting into, we're getting into golf bags. We've done limited batches for certain courses of custom leather. They're not really like Sunday bags because they have it's a stand bag, but it's like a pencil bag. So it's just single bar across, woods on the top, irons in the bottom. Super lightweight, like the caddies at Pebble Beach. They love these things because it's a single strap. Pop it down, two legs pop out. You're going to see some of those. We're also getting into actual, like, proper stand bags, and those are going to be coming out in 2026. We're getting into footwear, so more leisure style stuff, because as golfers, we inevitably are travelers, and travelers have specific needs that are different from homebodies. So passport holders, we've been doing those for years. We're going to be getting into weekend bags and backpacks, all leather. And we're going to be getting into some really cool footwear that will be more leisure style, not performance. So it's not necessarily golf shoes, but stuff that you would wear when you want to kick it back and be super comfortable. don't want to give away all the trade secrets here, but they'll be shown at the Orlando trade show. So we're diversifying, but it's still under the leather umbrella and premium product. We've worked really hard to get, the cow standing on that golf club to be recognized as the best of the best. And whatever product is that's going to be coming out is going to be tested extremely hard, and it's going to be made from the best materials, the best thread, and made by the best craftspeople. And we're just going to continue on that. And we've got, for the first time, some investors behind us, which is enabling us to get some more key pieces of machinery. It's going to allow us to do more testing. It's going to allow it allows us to be more of what we dreamed of this company hitting, where working capital is the biggest challenge of anybody's business cycle, and for the first time we got some investment. So the lid's going to be coming off in 2026. So originally, when we first started, there was an outside partner. So there was three of us, two brothers, Jeff and I, and another business partner that was based out of Halifax. And he had a leather custom furniture business. And so he helped source with leather and kind of mentored us in terms of how leathers work. And Jeff really dove into that segment. So Jeff's background, he went to Bishop's University and took business as his major. And so we kind of divided and conquered. Jeff was finance, production and operations, and then I was sales and marketing. And our stepdad was a really successful business guy, and he had helped mentor us over the years. And one of the first things he just said, "I'm telling you right now, this is the way it works. You're going to use your strengths. Todd's going to go sales and marketing. Jeff, you're going this way." And that really helped clear the air. There was no debate, and he helped us kind of establish those lines of communication. From that, Jeff really dove into the study and craft of leather. And we've been to Milan. There's a huge leather show there. All three brothers went. Jeff went to the first one by himself, and then the second one, the three of us went, and it's incredible. They have it every year, and it's like the Super Bowl of leather. If you need zippers, snaps, rivets, there's all those accessories and embellishments, but the leather component is the major topic at this particular trade show. No different than the Orlando PGA show. It's not just golf clubs. There's everything under the sun that's related to golf. Well, that's what Milan offers. It's everything related to leather under the sun. So attending those trade shows was a huge level up for our business. And I'd be curious to know how many competitors have ever gone to Milan and how many times they've gone, because we continue to go, because it's an evolution that never stops. As soon as you stop going to those things, somebody else is going to go, and they're going to figure out a way to pass you. So that's not what we want. And so it's a continuing self-education. And I think that's a big component that competitors necessarily don't adhere to. They're happy with, let's say, hitting a $10 million mark in sales. They get to there, they can make things more efficient, they can increase their profitability, and for a family business, that could be all you need. Or as a non-family business, you hit that mark and you just work on efficiencies, man, hats off, because you've got probably a great life, and you've got a great staff that are, living comfortably. For us, that's not our goal. We're looking into the hundreds of millions as a long-term goal, and how to get there is a monster question mark. And but we know that the evolution of that is through more education, understanding better embellishments, better techniques, and learning from people that are better than us. I mean, we have no there's no egos here. We realize that we don't know everything, and we know there's a lot more smarter, more creative people, and that's who we've been able to attract, and they gravitate to us, and we're happy to have them. So that's a really big component for us is realizing that there are a lot more people out there that have incredible talents, and we try to give them a safe space where they can just be free and as creative as possible in a team environment to help grow the brand.
When you guys were working with a furniture guy, and you had him out as a partner, you were getting stuff made there. When you transitioned away from it, how did you transition? Did you go to a factory? Did you buy machinery yourself? Did you have a 3PL to fulfill it, or were you guys fulfilling all your orders yourself?
Well, actually, the furniture guy, he didn't have any sewing machines or anything, so he was relying on partners to build the furniture for him. So originally, we were just using local tailors to get prototypes done. We'd try probably 3 different guys, and they were charging an arm and a leg to get one thing made. And from those prototypes, that's what we had originally taken to that first trade show. Because we started in September of 2014, the trade show was in November of 2014. So we had about a month to somehow come up with some prototypes, and we were just using old scrap leather from his furniture store. We ended up buying him out, I think, within a year. So Jeff and I just decided to buy him out, and in the meantime, we had found basically a leather worker on it's called Kijiji, which is like the Craigslist of America, and she was making these sock monkeys, and she had said that she had done some stuff in leather as well. So and she was like 65, 70 years old, and she understood and saw the vision, and she had this sewing machine in her living room. Well, within about a month and a half after that trade show, she realized, man, these guys have orders. We got to somehow make about, I think it was 65 units. And she turned her whole living room into a production floor. So she moved the TV, got another table, extended this thing out, and we were going and visiting her on the regular throughout the week, 2, 3 times. She'd work on something for a couple days, and she'd call us in, and we'd look at it and mess around with it and give her feedback. And we just did this over and over. Well, after that first spring drop, things started to kick in. So instead of having 60 pieces, we had 120 or 200 pieces that we had to make. It was like, holy smokes. There's no way she's going to be able to handle this type of volume. So we were also looking at other ways to embellish, and one of the things was laser. So laser technology, you could zap glass, you could zap a piece of aluminum, but you can also zap leather. And so we thought, well, this is like the cheapest, quickest way to customize a product is with leather versus embroidery. With laser. So we had found a guy who had a laser machine, and when we started chatting with him, he was like, well, what are you doing? Like, what needs lasering? Because he knew right away that something was up. And we said, well, we have this golf business, and we're just making these things. He's like, well, who's making them? And we're like, this lady in Highfield Park lives in a basement apartment. And he's like, well, I have a whole cut and sew in the back here. Do you want to come check it out? So we went in. All the machines that we ever could have dreamed of are sitting there. And so we worked with him for about a year and a half. And eventually there came to a point where we needed more autonomy, and we needed to have certain hours when we could work. And we knew that there was kind of it was time to jump from the kiddie pool and do a massive cannonball or tin soldier into the deep end. And so we pulled everything out, ended that, and bought a few machines, and opened up rented a really small space, and started producing the stuff on our own. And it was in association with an embroidery person who we had worked with, who was doing our embroidery, and they said, look, we're moving shops. Do you want to rent a little bit of space along beside us so that you don't have to drive across the city to drop off your leather products. And it was genius. It was all under one roof. So it was, now we've got a few machines. We're controlling production. We have our embroidery partner, so we don't have to invest in the big embroidery machines. They're going to do the embroidery, and it's all under one roof, and it's almost like we have our own shop. So that was how we kind of just, it was all small steps, and each step we never like bet the house on it. We were still teaching golf at this stage because we needed to still pay rent. The business was starting to pay for itself. We never paid ourselves for a number of years, and that was a big question when people, like the government, when we were looking for like a grant to go to a trade show, one of the questions are you paying yourselves? And it's like, no. And we would just continually check that box. Still not paying ourselves. A year would go by, still not paying ourselves. All the money was reinvested, circulating, and we had our second job of teaching golf. And that's why I was saying, like, don't quit your day job, because if you quit too soon, you're not going to have enough money to run that business, because you still need your personal life. You need to keep the lights on at home. So there comes a point where the business is now making enough and you're starting to see some profit that you can take a small check out of the business. And that's when we stopped the golf school. We had to drop we were sponsoring and coaching our own junior Dormie golf team. And we decided, let's put our energies into sponsoring the Nova Scotia Golf Association with Dormie product, which will still help grow golf. It just won't have us physically teaching kids. And that was tough for me, because I taught for so long, and it was a big passion of mine. And but at the same time, realizing that we can probably make a bigger impact, because we were able to go now. We moved laterally across the country. We were partners with Golf New Brunswick, Golf PEI, Golf Newfoundland, Golf Ontario. Having that type of impact is bigger than us coaching a band of 6 kids in a high performance team. So all these little things are what are integrated into the fabric of Dormie, is that we did start with teaching golf, and we've evolved into sponsoring events and sponsoring PGA sections in the U.S. and partnering with amateur sections in the U.S. And these are all things that, if you asked us what's important, giving back, growing the game, helping the community, we did an audit of how many head covers we had donated and how much product sponsorship we do. In the 11 years, we're at $275,000 in give back, which, for Jeff and I and Alex, that might be the best feather in all of our hats, is that there's a huge give back component that was from day one. If somebody had emailed us in the early days and asked for a head cover, we had a strict policy that if they took the time to write and find out who we were never going to say no. And that policy lasted almost 7 years before we had to scale it down, because it was getting so out of hand with the amount of requests. And so we've had to kind of put a filter on it somewhat. We're still given a lot. We run our own Play Yellow event here for our local Miracle Network Children's Hospital. And all these things are, just pillars of our business that people recognize. It's not all about the money, and it's not all about profit. It's still growing the game, giving back, and trying to help the community and just create a good culture among friends, family, and people that we've never met. So those are some of the, I wouldn't say secrets of success. It should be something that's ingrained in everybody's business. So one of the things I would advise anybody that is still listening, take a look at what that company's doing before you purchase a product from them. See what they do to give back, because if it's just take, then that says a lot about the people that are running that business. You look at the Enrons of the world, just classic cases of greed, out of control, and that is so far from who we are that we're just not going to be that, and it's pretty clear.
I love that. What kind of tactics do you guys use to be able to promote yourselves? Give us some specific tactics to promote yourselves, to give back, to have these events, but still be profitable because it costs money, of course, to give back. At what level and how much do you give back? And then how do you actually see a return?
Yeah, so we started talking about that number, and it was our production manager who had, he's very aware of the amount of product that we give away, and there is some type of formula um, based on your sales that would be expected, but we haven't even had a chance to dive into it because it was only a couple months ago where I had asked our office manager the question. I was like, do we have an estimate of what we've given? And she's like, yeah, we only started keeping records, say, in 2019 of the amount of head covers and how you value. Is it based on raw material price? Is it based on wholesale pricing, or is it based on retail pricing? There's different strategies of how you go about evaluating your donated products. But I think, to get back to your original question, um, it was, how do we determine how much we're going to give away? Is that what you're asking?
Well, to take away for somebody listening to this, for a practical takeaway, say they want to give back, they have a brand, they have a product, but of course there's margins. So you can't give away product and run the business into the ground, but you have this want to give back, but you also need to be a good business owner. Where's that kind of middle ground of how do I either do events, give away product, at what level and what amount have you found that not only is, of course, does it have a return, so people see that and they like it, and so you actually get more sales. So it's more of like a marketing thing, or is it 100% charity? And I guess that's up to the business and their margins to say how much they can give away.
Yeah, so when I look at, you go to a grocery store and there's a button, you're going to give $1 today, and all you do is you hit the button. To me, that's the lowest form. It's probably a massive ROI, and they're going to have probably a much larger check at the end of the day. I'm not going to say what the grocery store is because almost every single one of them do it. Um, but that might be their main form of writing a check to say, yeah, we give back. And to me, if we did that on our checkout of every head cover sold, um, that would be one way of us just, look, hey, we give back, but it's not. It's just a tax. It's just an extra tax. They've done nothing. There's no community building. Nobody benefits from it. The only benefiter is the person that receives the check. It's fully transactional, and it drives me crazy. And we don't do that for a specific reason, because we want to build community-based activities like a golf tournament. Yeah, a lot of people do golf events, but they have no idea. Those that do run those events know how hard it is and how much energy goes into it. But the positive vibes, the friendships that are built, and the amount of networking and business opportunities that have spawned from those community-based events are impossible to put a number on. I can't tell you the ROI of what we've got that have been turned into actual business opportunities based on our charitable golf tournament or any of the activities that we do, because it's so much better than donate now, put another dollar into the till. And that transactional stuff, it's really clear, and it has no. You're gonna leave that grocery store. You're not gonna feel any better by giving somebody $1. But when you have a needy like a sick child that was one of the sponsor kids from the IWK that comes out to a golf event, and that one day they come out and they participate in that event, and they get to see all the smiles, and they get to see some admiration of encouragement of the fight that they're having. It inspires other people because it's a real person that are challenged by whatever the disease is, or whatever whatever their fight is. When you see it in the flesh, it's far much more impactful. So when to create those events, and yeah, we get to write a check and we give that to the hospital, and it's an awesome feeling. The check isn't as big as what it could be. We are always trying to grow it. We want it to be 3 times as big, and we're still putting in the effort to try to get it there. But there's just inherent challenges of wherever the market is that you're in, and so what I would say to people that are looking at trying to give back, try to make it so that it's not a transactional thing. It should be a cause that you really believe in, and you have either first person knowledge of that challenge. So maybe it's somebody that had Alzheimer's. Our mother had Alzheimer's, and that's what took her down. So that's a really important component for our family. IWK, everybody's got a kid or a niece or a nephew, so that was a really easy one. And so you find the cause and you partner with them, and if they're on the same level as you, you're going to find a way to make something positive come out of that. Might not be the biggest check, but it could be a really impactful thing of that particular child or that adult that's facing a really debilitating disease. So I think it's a really personal thing for companies. It shouldn't be something where they go, what's going to give us the biggest bang for the least amount of effort? Because if once you're there, I can't give you any advice. That's the end of the line for me, and I see it a lot. And just once you recognize it and you take a look around and you kind of start scratching your head, you'll see it a lot more often. And so hopefully maybe this will inspire somebody to do something a little bigger than putting the green button looking for the $1 handout at the end of a checkout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Thank you for that encouragement too, and I hope that people do that. I think it'd be a better world if everybody was doing that. It'd be a pretty good world, wouldn't it? But I want to ask about the connections you make at some of these events, and you were saying about some of these partnerships. So tell me about the partnerships, some of these business connections, or even some of the sponsorships. How have you made those? Give us some tactics, from the sales and marketing guy. How do we make those big connections?
Yeah, so like with our brand, collaborations is a way to really climb the ladder fast. And customers appreciate that two brands, it's kind of that game recognizes game. If I see two companies come together, I'm going to gravitate towards that because I feel like somebody's going to have a really good, let's say it's, North Face and Vans did a collab on a kind of just a cool skateboard jacket. When I saw it, I was like, okay, they're using North Face liner to keep you warm, but they got the Vans styling of the skate. They combine those two, I'm going to buy that product. So with Dormie, we look for like-minded companies who want to have fun, who want to explore a unique product that has a different twist to it, and finding those people, those like-minded people. You don't just send out a LinkedIn note saying Dormie's looking to collab, apply here. Most of the collabs come from real life experiences at trade shows. So for example, the ski company that we worked with, we met these guys. They became such close allies of ours that we entrusted our marketing campaign with them because the guy was a really good creative. We had some fun with some skis. We did the golf component. They made the skis, and we blended art, and it was a win. We did a contest together, so it engaged our both followers, who somebody may have never heard of Dormie, and the other, and Gilson, maybe our fans had never heard of Gilson's. When a collaboration is truly collaborative, where it's 50-50, those are the best ones. So for example, that golf tournament that I was telling you about, the Play Yellow, which is the Jack Nicklaus Miracle Network Children's Hospital, that was his inspiration, him and Barbara. Well, one of the guys that is a microbrewer and also a restaurateur, he was part of that event, and he met my brother Jeff and said, hey man, I've got some of your covers, love your stuff. And once Jeff heard that he had a microbrewery, it was like, man, we made we made our own beer once before. Maybe it's time to revisit that. So we're coming out in 2026 with a new beer. It's going to be a collaborative effort locally here. We're working on our city's kind of divided into a north and a south end and a west end. And so we're based in the north end, where we're going to do a north end block party. We're only across the street from these guys. So we're going to have the golf component party in the daytime with live music, release our beer. Then we're going to go over to their events, microbrewery place at night, more music, continue the revelry, and it's a community-based project that just shows, yeah, we're in the city here. These are our roots, and this isn't about money. This is just about having fun, and this is about enjoying a space that we all live in. And from those events, we're probably going to meet a few people that might either become staff, or maybe they use our product, or maybe they have a collaboration that we could work with for food. Every opportunity that you get to meet, there's somebody that has something that there should be a like-mindedness, because we're all humans. Everybody has needs, and the best way to meet those needs is to come together as a team. And so that's all these trade shows. I've given you kind of two examples of how you can meet and turn them into a really cool product and a successful story from a marketing standpoint. From profitability, the collaborations are they are not transactional, but they are temporary, and it's the longevity that you don't get in collaborations, that they don't really become these big grand slams of, there's going to be an accountant somewhere going, man, these collaborations are a waste of time. And for our family, we're like, these collaborations are what built the business. So there's a huge value in doing a proper collaboration versus ROI, because nobody would probably do a collab because they're not necessarily that profitable, but they gain traction and they gain trust and legitimacy and all the things that brands need to grow and grow the brand. So we realize that we know the capacity of each of our facilities. So the output levels, we already know what our cap is going to be. And so we're going to rely on partners to pick up the slack. And what I mean by that is not everything will be made in-house by Dormie. So finding a good partner offshore is just as important as finding a good partner domestically. Our dream is to have everything made domestically, but in this global economy, we know the challenges, and you'd be foolish to not accept that some components are going to be made offshore. It's still going to be made domestically, but everything just can't be made in Canada or just made in the USA, and to think that you can hit the numbers that we want to get to. We could do it if we wanted to just remain in a really small segment, but understanding the challenges, we're okay with partnering with really good, ethically based materials and sourcing and labor to produce more Dormie product that we'll be able to test before releasing, and it'll have the same quality. It'll be our designs that we entrust with our partners to produce product that we know that the Dormie name will be well represented, and there'll be no downturn of the quality, the craftsmanship, and kind of the innovation that we're known for. One of the best things I think I've seen is to get to a trade show and you just go as an unknown, and just look at the booths and look at how they're presented. Talk to some of the people that are at those booths, because they're all going to have unique stories. This is our story. Probably there's a bunch of people that are like, man, I know what he's saying, but there's going to be a equal amount that are like, that guy's crazy, like that's not how it should be done, this is how we did it. So if you don't have any brothers or siblings, and you don't have any, really close family members, well, yeah, you're not going to have a family-based business. So going to trade shows and seeing what was around, that was what Jeff and I did. We went to a surf trade show, and then we went to the first Orlando trade show, and we were just mini tour players trying to make it as pros, but we knew we wanted to get into the fashion business of making golf gear. And we weren't really sure. We always thought, man, based on our experience, we were living in Daytona Beach. We had a ping pong table out on our driveway. Always had a keg of beer somewhere in the house. And we had surfboards everywhere because we were surfing Daytona and Ponce Inlet and New Smyrna on the regular. And we went to that Orlando show thinking, man, we got to make a surf-inspired golf brand. And we walked around the corner, and there was a Volkswagen van, a keg of beer, and a ping pong table. And the gear was incredible. We were like, this is nuts. Like, who are these guys? And it was the first year that Travis Matthew had pulled into a trade show that I was aware of, and we'd never heard of these guys. There it was our vision. If somebody gave us $50,000 to build a booth, it would have looked exactly like that. And what that did was it fortified that our ideas and our vision were spot on. If we had the cash to do it, we could have done it. So for those that have never been to a trade show and you're looking for ideas, or you think that your idea is a good one, go take a look and see. Maybe there's somebody that has replicated exactly what your vision is. Go talk to them and see, maybe there's space to have two of you. Just because Travis Matthew did it didn't mean that Johnny O couldn't do it or somebody else. It's just that happened to be their take on it. And yeah, they did explode, and Callaway bought them, and we know the success story of Travis Matthew. But those are the rare long shots that hit it big. But that would be my first thing, is go to a trade show, whatever your sector is, whether it's plumbing or whatever the heck you're trying to specialize in. There's going to be a trade show for pens. There's going to be a trade show for hats. Go there and just go in with your eyes wide open and an open mind, and don't be afraid to talk to the people that were the brains behind the brand, because when Jeff and I get approached, we're more than happy to share our story, because that's what we're doing right now. Sharing the story is part of the best way that we can get. Our guerrilla marketing has always been, social media, no big budget spends. It was always on the low, no extra money. So we just figured out ways to do it organically, and we're still doing it 11 years later. It would have been easy to see the email from you come in saying, hey, I got a podcast, and just push that aside. But each year as we evolve, now we acquired a belt company, and understanding that the acquisition of a belt company is a really easy bolt-on product that our consumer is going to love to be able to buy a Dormie belt, and a Dormie designed belt with a head cover. And we're going to put our spins and our design concepts of selling pieces that now that same cover that you were talking about with on the first tee and the RS that you dream of, we're going to have a belt that might share that same story. And just exploring on that, like, there's so many different things that we can do with belts, and that's a whole new chapter for us. So I think when brands stop doing podcasts, they either the owners or the founders have lost touch with the brand, or they're so successful that they don't need to do it anymore. And if it gets to that point with us, then I would be worried that some of the controls that we have in place now may be weakening, because there's still a lot that needs to be said as the company evolves. And if that evolution stops, then you're in trouble. Yeah, so this came from a meeting. Scott, who's the Antis founder, he started the business 15 years ago. I'm not going to call it mom and pop, but basically a family-run business, because it was just basically himself, and he had some sales reps, and he grew it to a nice size. The quality is incredible, second to none. And golf business based, and we saw him at some trade shows, but we also met him on some unique off-site trade show on a golf course where he was gifting his product and we were gifting ours, and it was for Shrixon. And Shrixon has these dealer conferences where if you're a top sales guy, you get these all expense paid trips for hitting certain sales positions. And when they come to these things, they have these opening cocktail nights where you get your goodie bag. And so over the years, we kept seeing Scott, and we became friends with him. And when he was about to exit and sell his business, he approached us. He said, I think this business would be great for you guys. You should buy my company. And that was probably 2 years ago when he first brought it up. And Jeff brought it up to me. He said, yeah, Scott wants us to buy his belt business. And right away I was like, man, that makes perfect sense. Like this, there is, like, in terms of the story and in terms of our consumer, who's a leather-based premium product, you buy one thing, it's going to last forever. A belt is the same way, and we had some belts from Scott. I was like, these things are deadly. How do we make this happen? We had no money and no right to even think of trying to acquire it at the time. So as time went on, Scott, I'm sure, had asked around, but it kept circling back to us. And just this, 2 weeks ago, we finally signed the papers. It's if you go to Antis, the website, it's Antis Belts by Dormie, and we're working on our some new logos. And it's an exciting piece of our story for the brothers to own a belt company. If you told us that 11 years ago, we did try making some belts and realized that it was way out of our league. There was too much competition. We knew nothing about it. Sizing, materials, it was a distraction. The distractions are some of the biggest challenges as an entrepreneur that you will ever find, because people are like, man, can you make us a really cool guitar strap? I think you could sell 1 million of those. And so we started making guitar straps. Well, we're not making them anymore. Knife sheaths for chefs. Man, I think you could kill it with these leather knife sheaths. Well, made a few of those, not making them anymore. So all these ideas are pitches, and people are super positive. They're like, man, they're trying to help us grow. And the hardest thing as an entrepreneur is to say no, because you're always thinking, man, that could be the next big thing. But with the head covers, we have the next big thing. We landed that, and I'm not going to say we conquered it, because we're constantly evolving, but we're in a really good spot with it, and we don't want to take our eyes off the prize too far, because once you do, things can go sideways really quick. But the belts, the technology, all the partnerships and all the sales channels, Scott mastered that. He's got a really nice line. He just didn't have the amount of accounts that we have, and he's at a point in his life where he didn't want to continue on, the hustle, and he wants to retire. There's a beautiful Boston whaler he wants to buy. He's going to be fishing. He's still going to be working with us for the next 3 years, which is a critical piece for that integration of the two businesses. So we've got him for 3 years to make sure that the transition works smoothly. We grow the brand, the two brands together, and it's really exciting to have him on board, because he's extremely successful, super positive. He's energized. The guy named Bryce that works with him, he's an unbelievable national ranked volleyball player. He won 2 Division I championships and was a pro at one point. So it's exciting to have Bryce on our team, because he embodies everything that the brothers did. We all played volleyball too. So all the people that we have are still our number one asset. Products are cool, but it's investing in people is still the number one way to grow a brand. Till the day I'm gone, it's always people first, product second. Because if you don't have the people, product doesn't matter. Yeah, well, this is our first and only acquisition so far. The belts that we did do, one of the production managers way back, had some experience in belts. So, she had said, and Jeff and I were like, man, let's do some belts. And I still have the belts that she made. The difference between those ones, which were really basic, really nice belt quality leather, simple buckle. Scott's are just so elevated, from the buckles, all the screws, the stitching, the way the edges are painted. It's just a top quality belt, and for us it was being able to offer a premium product that would accompany all the key assets that we wanted to have in terms of what are the accounts that he's working with, and a lot of the accounts that he works with, we have. We probably have a lot more accounts that we'll be able to bring the belts into based on our connections and growth and just our sales force. So, adding up, looking at the larger picture of, say, 2 and 3 years growth, we know that we can grow the belt business quite easily because people, our partners, trust us. At the same time, Scott's saying, man, the people that I'm selling these belts to, they're using X, Y, and Z for head covers. So right there, if they're buying these belts from Scott, they should be using our head covers. So there's a really nice crossover between the two companies that to amalgamate them was really no brainer. And we'll be able to do limited runs now of Dormie, utilizing because the belts, we're not going to be personally making them. This is going to be an off-site addition to our two facilities, the one based in LA and the one in Halifax. None of the belts would be made in those. They're going to be continually made in the facilities that Scott uses. So there's no learning curve here. It's more of a what can we do next type of question. It's like, how do we elevate the beautiful line that you have now? Well, Dormie customers are probably going to want to see something that is going to be limited. It's going to be different colorway, different buckles. We're going to look at the belts just as we did with the head covers. How do we make it so that somebody can't say no, and it's going to give them a way to express how they feel, or just a really nice accompaniment to the shoes that they own. Now, like when I wake up in the mornings, I'm actually excited to put my pants on. Like, I've never said that before. Like, I can't wait to put a new belt on my pants because I've never had any good belts. And this is something that, it's really exciting. I can't talk enough about it, and that's all we really, we just came from Montreal from a trade show, and, talking about the belts is a new piece, and pros all loved it. Custom fit, and it's just like our head covers, custom made, custom fit.
Man, what a cool story. I'm super excited for you and for the belts. Really exciting. I want to talk a little bit about education. How did you go to college? How did you educate yourself in business?
There.
All right. My last question for you. So we'll talk about education, and I'm curious on how you educate yourself. How are you educating yourself now to be a successful business person? And then if you could write one book, what would be included in that book to give somebody to be successful in business or to start a business? You have to write your own book, and this is the only book they could read from. What kind of context would be in there?
The educational piece is we've got, Jeff has mentors that he's used for a number of years, and they've become almost like consultants to us. So leaning on people who are in the business community that can help steer us. It certainly gets to a point where you almost need a professional grade. So it's an actual business consultant, IP lawyers, your lawyers that just get regular stuff done for our investors. So a lot of this we were never. It's just the school of hard knocks. So you need to find people around you again that specialize in certain areas that the business requires. So I'm not going to take on the challenges of figuring out proper trademarking and IP stuff when we go to Korea next, or for the next acquisition, the lawyers, I'm not going to be the one trying to write those papers. So in terms of that, the ebb and flow of the business still comes a lot from our gut checks and feelings of, we met somebody at a trade show that has an interesting business or an interesting angle that we've never considered. That is an ongoing thing that, there's no course in that. Our everyday life coming up to this point has kind of gotten us to where we are. From university to, I went to Humber College for golf course management. A lot of it was already established back in the early days. The second part of the question about writing a book, what was the book tip that you were looking for?
If you could hand somebody a book, right, that you wrote a book, what kind of context would be in it? And this is the only business book that person could have.
I think the first thing is, whatever you're going to pursue it for yourself, for your own happiness and the love of what it is, versus pursuing it because of money. So the book really would be more of a book on self-exploration and adventure and understanding of what makes yourself tick. All the things that I've ever done in my life were based on a couple simple principles. One was I always wanted to work outside, so I started working in turf care. That was my first real job at a golf course, was working on the turf care, and I did that for years, almost 10 years worth. And that was just based on my childhood principle that I didn't want to work indoors. Yeah, I'm working indoors today, but I'm flying to North Carolina Sunday, and I'm going to be outdoors for probably half that week at Pinehurst. So having a couple key principles of what are your core values as a person first, that has to be your pillars of what you will surround your business principles around. So simple principles like, I want to be outdoors, I want to be in the golf business, or I want to be in adventure tourism business, or whatever it is. Maybe the person's like, I don't want to be outside, I want to be in an air-controlled environment, and I love using computers. Well, that's the complete opposite of who I am. So all I'm saying is, at least find out who you are first, because once you start pursuing your passions, the money will eventually follow, if that's what you want to do. If that's how you want to build your business, I think the best way to do it is find something that you love to do, because it's very cliche to say, but when I go to work, it doesn't feel like work, because this is what I would be doing anyway, hanging out at golf courses, talking to pros, talking about equipment, looking at fashion. And that would be what the book would be about, is more about yourself as opposed to the ABCs of Business 101. Because, going out and taking a year off, me going to New Zealand between high school and university, opened up my eyes to a whole new culture and a whole new country and a whole new way of living. And those experiences only fueled my fire to do more travel and see more cultures. And I knew that was in my, I guess my father was like this too. We traveled a lot, and he traveled for business. And, the influences that my father had on me as a kid, he's the one that got me into all the sports. He's the one that got me into all the travel. He didn't have necessarily a huge business background, but the principles of how we played those sports and how we treated others when we traveled, those all became our business principles. So one of our most influential people was our mother and her father. I mentioned our stepdad because he was a very savvy businessman, and he could connect those I's and cross the T's on a document, or help building a team and how your operational structure looks. That's something my father couldn't do, but he knew how to, if once you have that operational structure, you knew how to treat those people. So in that book, it would be more about finding out who you are first, and then finding out who you want to surround yourself with second. And from that, you'll probably be able to build a pretty solid business.
I love that. I love that. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for listening. This is the $100 Million Podcast. Our $100 Million guest today is Todd Bishop. Thank you so much, Todd, for coming on. Please, please, please like and subscribe this. Go in the link down below. Get in contact with Todd. All his contacts, the businesses, all his products are going to be in the link in the description. Get in contact with him if you guys want anything like that. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.